Hey there, my name is Brittany Lamb. I'm an emergency medicine physician, and outside of the emergency department, I help family members of people who are living with dementia navigate, plan, and anticipate for all things medical decision making. I fell into this work because of the holes that I've seen in the healthcare system and my time in the ER and prior to that. And I'm treating my own burnout doing this work. So, super excited to be here and to dive into this conversation with Jennifer.
Welcome back to this episode of Tiny Little Victories. I am still your host, Jennifer Kite Powell. And I love the way the music ends when my voice is still talking. It's perfect timing. Today, I have an incredible guest with us. I feel so fortunate because she's an ER room doctor. So I'd like to welcome to the podcast, Dr. Brittany Lamb.
Hello, Jennifer.
Hello. Hey friends, before we get into this conversation with Dr. Brittany Lamb, I wanted to paint a picture about the state of American emergency rooms today where Dr. Lamb works. And in a March 2023 article from Scientific American, they looked at why fewer doctors are choosing to go into emergency medicine. They have hundreds of unfilled residency spots, and they're telling us that critical care is in real trouble. And from 2020, there was a report from the American Medical Association of Physician Master File Dataset, very scientific, that actually said there were around 48,835 clinically active emergency physicians in 2020. The median age was 50, and 28% of those numbers were women. The most dense areas of emergency room physicians were in urban areas, followed by large rural areas, and no surprise, to small rural areas. The urban physicians were younger than those in larger rural areas, which were about 58 years, and smaller areas tended to be older emergency room physicians, or about the medium of 62 years. And they were more likely to be women, which is interesting. But one of the things that I don't think that people think about is what emergency room physicians actually do. Every day, they have to make immediate medical decisions that has to prevent death or further disability. They have to go in there and look and provide immediate recognition of the problem. They have to evaluate it. They have to give the care. They have to stabilize, and they really have to understand right there what they need to do with patients. And the reason why I want to tell you this is because Dr. Brittany Lamb chose to go into emergency medicine. She knew that was the place for her to be. So I wanted to paint that picture before we get into the conversation with her so you can understand who Dr. Lamb is and her commitment to doing her job in the emergency room. Stay tuned. So Dr. Brittany Lamb is an emergency room doctor. Okay, that's enough right there to make you guys stop what you're doing, right? And just like squeal and sit down. But she's also an advocate for dementia caregivers, sort of helping people, families, anybody that's helping anyone that has dementia sort of move through the process and sort of fill all the holes. I think you had mentioned somewhere, I'd listened to something you said there are just so many holes out there. And you're also a mom, right? So you have a family, so you're doing all of these things. And I think one of the things I know people will be interested in is, how did you get on this journey? I mean, moving from an ER room doctor to creating this huge advocacy. I know you speak a lot about this. So I would love to hear that story.
Yes. Well, one thing I do have to tell you is that I'm not actually a mom. So I don't.
Good.
Yeah. So
How did I not know you were a mom.
You
I'm
know,
so sorry.
it's interesting because someone else has said that to me recently, and I am an aunt. I do
Oh,
post a lot about my nieces and nephews on social media. I'm like a proud aunt. And I
maybe
was
that's
a
what it was.
yes, and I was a dog mom, but my dog just passed away. So,
So, first of all,
yes.
can we just have like a little moment of silence for your sweet dog?
Yeah, my sweet pup Molly, she is 13. Great dog. Miss her.
Yeah.
But
It's so hard to lose an animal, isn't it? Like,
it
I
is.
think just the idea that you can still hear them and feel them sometimes. For me, I've lost my sweet Henry a couple of years ago, and I swear I still see him and feel him sometimes. So my heart goes out to you.
Yeah, I
You'll
know.
get,
It's a fresh loss, so it's
oh,
tough.
oh my God. I'm so sorry.
No, it is. It is such is life. You get them and you love
Yeah.
them and you know that they're going to leave you at some point. So,
You know what? You know what? That's so difficult, isn't it? Like I think, I think that idea of loss is just so profound because
yeah.
I can't love them long enough, right? Like you just
Yeah.
can't love them long enough, and you want to do everything. I think I told my vet, I said, "Well, can't we just get a new kidney?" I mean, you do that for humans. And she was like, Jennifer, that's like, he's very old. And I'm like, okay, but we would, for a human, we'd give them a new kidney, right? So,
Yes. Yes. I know, it's different, it's very different.
yeah, it
It was a
is.
kind of an eye-opening experience, like, hearing the emergency veterinarian so I was out of town, and, I mean, I know we're kind of derailing this conversation, but,
No, this
um
whole podcast is about derailment. So,
but I was out of town. I was actually visiting my sister who just had a new
mm,
baby, so I have a new nephew, and then
congratulations.
I knew that my dog wasn't doing well. I was trying to get back to her, and I wasn't able to
Ah,
make it back, and the day that I was at the airport, it wasn't able to make it back is when I got this call from my husband, and he took her to the ER, to the vet, and the ER veterinarian was saying the same things to me that I say to my patients, what are our goals of care? What is our value of quality of
really?
life? What's the plan here? And kind of walk me through all the options. And, we walked through risk and benefits and everything. And we made the
Yeah,
decision to let her go. And so,
yeah,
it was really strange to me, like
yeah.
here,
To get that back, to hear that
yeah,
back, what you're telling
yes.
other humans to get that back. Well, that sounds like a good vet to me.
She was amazing. I wish I could shout out her name. I can't remember her name right
No,
now.
that's okay. That's honestly okay. We're shouting out to the emergency vet that helped guide Dr. Lamb through her loss. And I will tell you,
Yes.
that makes a big, big difference because there have been times when, before my Henry passed, that he had torn like his MCL, his
Mhm.
ACL. And the emergency vet was like, yeah, he's 13. He's just game over. That's really not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And there was no, as you said, like, what are your goals of care? Like, what is it that we can do for him? And I'm
Mhm.
sort of a fighter, so I was in New York then, and I was Ubering, sorry, not driving, didn't have a car, Ubering all over Manhattan to find like a naturalist, acupuncture, like I finally found a rehabilitation doggy center in
Wow.
Manhattan. Yeah, that they do this water therapy. So they
Yeah.
have like a little tiny doggy pool, and they walk. But he had also gone blind, so they put him
Oh,
in like a little tank, and it rose the water, and he'd just walk on this little treadmill. Well, he lived like 5, 6 more years.
yeah. That's
So
crazy.
had I listened to that terrible ER dog doctor who was like, Matt, game over, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have had him for that time. And it was at the end of his life where this awesome vet, like your vet, said, let's sit down, Jennifer, and really look at what we're talking about here. And
Yeah.
you know at that point, because they're not living that quality of life
Mhm.
that they deserve.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
And
so
just
it's interesting because I don't like to draw parallels between animals and humans, but it does, your life experiences, they do remind you of other things. And so it's just a
yeah,
different experience and there
yeah.
are some similarities in it. But
Yeah, I think we try to put human attributes on everything in
yeah.
just sort of everything we do, and I think, I mean, you can't say it because you're a doctor, but I'm going to say it because I feel like, I mean, they're everything. I don't have children, and so I mean, my dog is everything to me. I also have a cat I recently lost, and of course their care is important to me. I'll do anything for them. I will give them a $3,000 like new spine if I can. So. I think that the idea of love and caring for something is a very human experience, and so yeah, so let's go into the emergency room. First of all, are you
Yeah.
doing? you like work in the ER after this podcast, so thank you. What's yours? How does that work? Are you like six? Do you do like shifts in a row, or
Yeah, so
how is it?
I'm still working full time in the emergency department. About a year
Wow, wow.
ago, I switched over from day shift to night shift, which
Is there a
is
big difference? What's that like? Is
yeah,
it like a
yeah, there is a big difference. So, I am able to batch my shifts now and work them more in a row because it's obviously less disruptive to your to your
yes,
sleep cycle. So
right, totally.
I usually work at least 4 shifts in a row, but tomorrow night I start a row of 6 shifts, and I don't usually
Oh my
work that
God.
many, but I was out of town visiting my sister, so
Yeah, yeah. So
um,
so this is, you're going to
yeah,
be the ER doctor for over the long holiday weekend then.
correct, yes.
Oh, now sorry, is it crazier over holiday weekend in the emergency room? I
It's just a
imagine it
little
would be.
different. It's actually, Sundays and Mondays are our busiest days normally, and that kind of gets
Really?
shifted to then like Tuesday, when we have holidays. So, yeah, it's interesting because, offices aren't open, so
Yeah, true.
people aren't making phone calls and saying, "Oh my gosh, your labs came back. You need to go to the ER," or whatever,
True, true. That's so
So,
true.
yeah, and people typically come in less on Saturdays, Fridays, Saturdays, but Sundays are a busy day in the ER and Mondays are our
Why,
busiest
why,
day.
why is that? Why is Sunday a busy day? Because if the
Uh,
weekend comes and I'm doing something and I'm like, don't end up in the emergency room.
yeah. Yeah, I think part of it is just because you're about to go into a work week, and so
Mm.
people are, oh my gosh, I need to get this taken care of, or they've kind of put it off, and the weekend has happened and they've kind of put it off, and now it's like, oh gosh, I need to go. So but Mondays are the worst day. So um
That's a really amazing me and also a good tip because
yeah.
I find myself in the emergency room when I typically do dumb things or like something flies directly into my eye, which has happened to me like a couple of months ago, and they looked at me like, you can have to wait, that's not that important. I'm like, I can't see out of this eye. But so in the emergency room, you've been working in the emergency room and something happened to you there where you began to see how people or patients with dementia were treated, which I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, is that sort of the beginning of how you became this really public advocate for dementia caregivers?
Gosh, I think that it's just a culmination of so many different experiences I've had in my life. So, I started medical school in 2010. And when I was in medical school, I became very passionate about, kind of learning about the healthcare system and how it
Yeah.
works and, what can we do to make it better and whatever. And and part of that journey was, how are we taking care of people who are aging? How are we turning their goals and values and what life means to them? And how do we transition those values and translate that into the care that they receive? There's a lot that needs to be done as a society about talking about these things and being more
Yeah.
open about our
Yeah,
journey
totally.
through life. Yeah.
I,
Um,
I think that's so true because people tend to shove it under the carpet.
yeah.
That's one of the reasons I was so fascinated. I think I saw a post that you had put up on LinkedIn, which is why I was so interested in talking to you because I don't it's like not, it's right beneath the surface. Nobody talks
Hmm.
about it yet. The amount of people that you encounter or the pain that you feel from people that have dementia and people sort of turn their heads the other way, but if people had more knowledge or we talked about it more openly, maybe it wouldn't have such a stigma around it.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So the thing is, people living with dementia can have wonderful quality of life for a long time. And the problem is that, though, they are at a certain point unable because of the disease that's happening in their brain that's causing their symptoms of dementia, because there's lots of different diseases that cause dementia. Dementia is not really a disease. It's like
And
symptoms.
oh, okay. It's like
Yeah.
a byproduct of something.
Yeah, like Alzheimer's is a disease, vascular dementia, frontotemporal dementia, Parkinson's
Okay.
related or Lewy body dementia. Those are all diseases that cause
Yeah.
symptoms of dementia. So,
Okay.
but people can live with great quality of life, but at some point they won't be able and won't have capacity and the ability to make their own medical decisions,
Hmm.
and not just their medical decisions, but all kinds of decisions, financial, legal, where they live, how to
Yeah.
keep themselves safe. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. So there is a lot of stigma behind it, but it's extremely prevalent. I probably see someone living with dementia in the emergency department as my patient once a shift.
Wow.
So it's
And
extremely prevalent.
are those people like accompanied by somebody in there, or they usually find them on their own in the emergency
It's a
room with them?
mixture. It's a mixture. I've had patients that I didn't realize were living with dementia until later on in the emergency department stay.
Really? Because that's one of
Yeah.
the things I was thinking about asking you was like, what are the misconceptions? Like, what do people miss? And then you had already just started talking about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions. I mean, it's not normal aging to develop dementia. It's not normal aging. It is disease in someone's brain, and there's different I'm using a term, pathophysiology, but like there's different things happening in the brain that actually cause these symptoms. And so it depends on the disease, but it's not normal aging, and it affects someone's ability to function on a day to day. And that's when we go, oh gosh, like this person's probably living with a disease causing dementia.
Okay.
But
Okay.
people oftentimes are living independently in the beginning. They may recognize that there's something not right, like they're having difficulty completing their normal daily tasks, and
Oh, I
then
see.
yeah, oftentimes people aren't diagnosed until it starts to affect their ability to function, and other people notice it, like people that they work with or their family members, their
Wow.
spouse. Yeah. So I had, not too long ago, I had a patient who came in because she fell in her house. She was living independently, and I believe she may have called 911 herself, and she had isolated pain, meaning she just had pain in like her hip.
Yeah.
And she was able to tell me the whole story, exactly how she fell, the whole story, what she did that
Wow.
day, all of her medications. And then, it was a busy ER day, and she was stuck in the
Yeah.
ER for a long time. And she wound up getting x-rays and a CT scan, because that's kind of the standard of care, and working up what
Yeah.
was going on with her. And she became irritated that she was there for so long, which is reasonable.
Yes,
But
totally. I mean, how do you decide? That's a tough one to
yeah,
hack.
that's every day. All I do
Yeah.
is manage people's expectations and
Oh my God,
try.
I can't even
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah, it's a very tough job being an ER doctor. Not to say there aren't other tough jobs, but it is,
No,
I did not.
I get it. No, I think I can't. I'm loving that you put it from your perspective, because there will always be some sort of wait line or queue in the ER room, and
Yeah.
either you're scared or you're in pain, or you have enough low level emergency to go to the room, but obviously somebody with a heart condition or fell is gonna bump up ahead of you, and you don't. I'd actually always feel like I'm aware of what's going on, but you're right. If you're sitting there for like 6 hours,
Hmm.
at some point you're going to start to get a little testy, and you really
Yes.
shouldn't,
Yes,
because
yes. It's tough.
yeah,
It's really
yeah,
tough. I write about this on my blog,
yeah,
but anyway, but this woman, she was getting irritated, and her daughter had wound up coming to the ER, to see what was going on and everything, and they
yeah.
didn't live together. Well, she was completely confused at this point. She didn't know who I was.
Really?
She didn't know couldn't tell me what had happened. And so she was
What?
experiencing a symptom of dementia that is commonly labeled as sundowning. And her daughter told me she's usually very, very well able to function in the beginning of the day, and then she loses this ability over the day.
Towards the end of the day.
Right. And if you think about it, right, our brains, they're organs, and they get tired, and we use them, and they need rest. And so it makes
Yes.
sense that kind of towards the end of the day, things can get worse for a lot of folks. So I would have I could have very easily missed that if I had gotten her out of the emergency department faster. And it didn't
Oh my
change
God.
anything. It,
Yeah.
it didn't change anything in her care and what we did. She still went
Hmm.
home, but I was able to educate her daughter about, like, and I have a passion for this, and I'm also, perhaps more knowledgeable than the standard emergency room doctor about this, because I'm doing this other work outside of the ER. But I
Yeah.
was
I
able to
mean,
give her some resources and next steps to take.
yeah.
So
I mean, that's so interesting, because the daughter came, and it's like, yeah, so she actually is identifying the sundowning, but not realizing that there are probably small things that she can do in this case.
yeah. Yeah. So it was
Wow.
her daughter, all the siblings had noticed that there was something going on with her, but she hadn't been officially diagnosed.
And is that
Um,
like something you wouldn't get officially diagnosed for, right? Because I mean,
Not
all
in
these
the
things you just described, I feel like happened to me on a regular basis by the end of the day.
well,
But
no.
my mother by example, I think, she's 84, and it's like, is that something you can't have dementia just diagnosed straight out? Is that something people can do?
Yeah, no, it's a diagnosis of exclusion, and I
Okay.
think as time goes on, we'll get better at being able to diagnose it. And different parts of the country do put people through different workups. It just depends on what the access is to there with research and everything. But I mean, it there you have to rule out other conditions. So typically we
Before you
don't
get
make
there.
yeah, typically we don't make that diagnosis in the emergency department or even in the hospital, but we can say
Yeah.
I'm highly concerned that that may be something that's going on with your person, and this is what you need to do next in order to get a diagnosis. And neuropsychological testing is one of the things that's is part of the kind of bundle of trying to figure out what's going on with somebody, because it really does help tease out what parts of the brain are functioning like they should and what parts are struggling. So
Okay. And and so in terms of the healthcare system, you had mentioned, I think, like I said, I think in one of your blogs I read that there were a lot of holes in the system.
yeah.
And so what brought you to dementia? Like what part of your advocacy, other than
Yeah.
witnessing this every day, because you have a blog and we're going to put that in the notes for everybody. You also have a free audio guide, right? Which
Yes.
has steps to help people, resources that they can do to, is it understand dementia, or things that caregivers can do for people with dementia?
Yeah, so I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and that is
I love that.
that is something that you have to be able to do. I think in order to be a decent ER doctor, like you got to realize when you don't know what you're talking about. So, you got to call for some backup.
Yeah.
But from my lens and my viewpoint of what I see in healthcare, I see a lot of people come into the emergency department having a medical condition or something going on that to me as a physician is not, maybe not necessarily, it's like predictable or foreseeable based on how old the person is, what their age is, what medical problems they have, and the fact that they're an aging human being and living in the United States. So it became, I'll
Interesting.
tell you, I came upon what I'm doing out of moral injury slash burnout slash frustration with the system.
You know what? I think that probably makes sense. Like, there's so many things that lead to people taking a path, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes the hardest experiences, like you said, burnout, disappointment in the system, can lead you to a new place.
Yeah. So I was feeling very powerless, like a cog in the wheel. What we do in the ER is we're like a fancy triage system. Are you sick enough that you need to be hospitalized? Do you need surgery? Do you have a concerning infection? Do you need to stay here? Do we need to do something to you right
Wow.
now? Or can you go home or go someplace else that's safe for you to figure this out over time?
That's a lot. That's a lot of quick decision making.
It is. It is. And so when I have families that come into the emergency department that are experiencing something that from my viewpoint as a professional is foreseeable and that we could have planned for, it's very frustrating when they don't know what they want to do.
Wow, I can imagine.
And I mean, this is me coming from my lens and my viewpoint, and why is this a problem? There's lots of reasons why this is an issue. It's because the healthcare system is set up so that we have these very short encounters between you and the professional. There isn't the time to really educate people about what is going on with this disease process, this condition, the situation that is happening, and what we can expect moving forward, the things that you can think about in the future and plan for. Um, even amongst very highly educated people, there's still low health like literacy and understanding of what actually is happening to our bodies and how these things can get worse and change over time and how they will affect our quality of life. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you bring up some really interesting points about, I think, education and knowledge and resource, because I think you could have. I mean, I don't know a lot about dementia, and I consider myself a pretty educated person, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I also know when you go to the ER, exactly what you said, it can be scary because you're like, is there something else wrong with me? Is it just this bird in my eye? Is it,
Yeah.
something that's actually a real thing that happened to me? And so I think the idea of for me, going into the ER and having someone know that someone's computing all of these options for me and me not knowing it is very reassuring, actually, right
Mm.
now to think about it. But from your side, I can see where it would be really frustrating.
Yeah. And so, I was getting angry, which is not healthy,
No, it's not good. No, not at all. Because
right?
you obviously have a passion because you chose to work in the ER room. So, I mean, getting angry doesn't take us anywhere, right?
Exactly. So and it wasn't necessarily is anger at a lot of things, right? But what I realized is that people are hungry for information and this knowledge. And so what I do specifically for families who are navigating the disease that's causing dementia in their person is I help them with the medical decision making side of things.
Okay. Okay.
So I also, now that I'm doing all this work online, not research, but
Yeah.
like I've
Yeah.
learned about all these other people that help solve the problems that come up in dementia, like people who help educate people about behaviors, and
Wow.
physical therapists and occupational therapists who are teaching people about how to prevent falls, and speech language pathologists who are teaching, things that you can do to help safely swallow and eat and
Oh
still
my God,
get
it's
the
like a
person.
whole connected network of people just sort of
Exactly.
lost out there. Like you're bringing the red thread, sort of putting them all in a loop. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have
So,
even thought about all those things, but
yeah.
occupational PT, like speech therapists, of course, all those things are part of that degradation of the brain functionality that controls all
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah. So it's been really fun to be online and to meet all different types of people that are solving problems for families,
Hmm.
and saying to people, look, all what I do is help you create a plan for making medical decisions on behalf of this person. And if you can involve them in the planning process,
Hmm.
that is awesome. Like that would be ideal.
Yeah.
But we know that the person living with dementia is going to lose the ability to make their own medical decisions. And we know
Yeah.
who is going to have to step in and make them. So why don't I just arm you with all this information so that you can feel better? Because people feel, when we make medical decisions for someone else, it's so emotional and stressful. And,
Yeah.
even me as a
Yeah.
professional, I've had to make medical decisions in my own family members. And
Yeah.
you're like, did I do the right thing? Is there
Gosh.
something else I could have done? And so those
Yeah,
things,
you're armed with all the information. I mean, also you're
yeah.
still human, so I mean, that would make
Yeah.
sense.
So I just want people to know that there is a way to have peace of mind when you're navigating this, and to know what is likely to happen, so that when it
Hmm.
happens you're not thinking I did something wrong, like I'm the reason why they're here, this is my fault. Because I hear that a lot. People feel guilty about the fact that their person is having a medical situation like a urinary tract infection or like a fall
Yeah.
with an injury, and they feel like it's their fault. And I'm telling them, you didn't do anything. Like you did the
Right,
best you
right.
could, and this stuff just happens. But if you knew that it was likely to happen, you wouldn't be
Then you
beating
wouldn't.
yourself up as much.
I was just gonna say, like, that's really beautiful because if you know things are gonna happen, then you're not gonna beat yourself up. But it's really terrible to have somebody sit there and feel terrible about something that there was nothing they could control. You
Yeah.
said something, and I'm gonna quote back to you, to everybody, something that you said, which I think is one of the reasons I think what you're doing is amazing. As you said, healthcare traditionally waits until people are critically ill, and we then ask people to think about the future, and this is a mistake.
Yeah.
That's basically what you're talking about here, is adding this education component to your health profile, which makes so much sense because I'm aging, my mother's aging, I don't know anything. I feel like, where can I go to get that information? And I think people are a little afraid of the medical community sometimes, and they
Hmm.
don't know where they're going to go, or they're only going to make a choice when it's absolutely critical, like you said.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons for it. I mean, for one, our underlying goals in our healthcare are pretty much universal, I think, and they stay the same for a very long time. Most of us want to live, and we
Yeah.
want to live with good quality of life.
Yeah.
And that's really our goals for so long. And then what happens, I think, is that people people just don't identify and communicate what living means to them as a person. And as we age, we become at risk of not being able to make our own medical decisions, whether or not we're living with dementia.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. I mean, that's so profound in a way because you don't really think about it until something happens.
Exactly. And the problem is that when your family members are when they are asked to step in and speak on behalf for you, if they don't understand your medical history, they don't understand what medical problems you have, what you faced in the past, they don't understand what living and what quality of life means to you, and they're extremely stressed out and emotional, they struggle to make medical decisions. And a lot of times people's lives get prolonged and they get aggressive care that prolongs life when they maybe wouldn't have wanted that.
Yeah, that's wow. How did we let it get this bad in a way? Like, I feel like, I mean, because I think you're right about the healthcare system, but it seems like we really lost our way. It seems like a much better way to tackle things to me.
Oh gosh. I mean, I
That's
don't know
probably
how
like
to
another hour's worth of a
I
conversation,
know.
right?
I don't know how to answer that question. I mean,
That's okay.
there's a lot of money in healthcare, so I mean, that's
Well,
part
yeah.
of it, right? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we've made
Aggressive care is money, right?
yeah, and we've made a lot of advancements, in especially in cardiac care. So in
Yeah.
care that supports the heart, we have made tremendous advancements. One of the biggest things that that we can do these days is mind-boggling to me is we can replace people's aortic valves through their blood vessels.
What?
They're
No,
doing
that's
valve
amazing.
replacements without cutting people's chests open. It's amazing,
That is
but
amazing. I remember my aunt having hers, and we went to the hospital, and she had to hold a pillow over her
yeah,
chest because they had cut it open. She had to like keep a heavy pillow there for like days.
yeah, yeah.
Kind of barbaric if you think about it.
Yeah. And so it's, for someone living with dementia who has aortic stenosis or has underlying heart disease, at a certain point, if that person was able to make their own medical decisions, they may choose that they don't want to even start that type of aggressive critical care.
Yeah, totally.
And the way that our healthcare system right now intersects with the legal system and the advanced directives and tools that we have for people to document what they care about for the future, it just doesn't really work very well for people living with dementia and in general. I think that I have a huge problem with advanced directives as a plan. They are not a plan; they are tools. And I
Yeah,
think people.
I didn't even know what advanced directive was until 2 years ago when I had total knee replacement surgery. I'm like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, yeah. And
I
so
was really scared.
they come from a place of the whole idea of advanced directives makes perfect sense. It's right. Hey, you should be able to say what you would want as far as your healthcare goes if you can't speak for yourself.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of them, right? But there's really only two kind of classes of them, and one is naming who you want to be your medical decision maker, which, in my opinion, that's the most important thing to do. And then the second one is thinking about treatments that you would or would not want. And the way that the directives are traditionally written, we're talking about what kind of treatment would someone would or would not want towards the end of their life.
Yes, I
And
was going to say, like, do you want to stay on this respirator or do you want to hit the road?
right. And
And
so
those are like the only two options I've ever seen.
the problem is that that's not enough. There's a journey.
Yeah.
There's a journey in aging, and there's a journey towards
Yeah.
the end of life. And those advanced directives oftentimes don't help us know when to not start critical or kind of aggressive care in the first place.
Oh my God. It's scary.
It's like what to do
Yeah.
when we've started it and it's not working. So,
But how, it seems like such, again, you can't answer this, but such a huge chunk missing out of like full, like a life cycle care. This very end part just is like, meh, just sign this or sign that and you're done. But it's not the case.
yeah, I also think people have become more open to talking about these things,
Yeah.
and people are living longer now, and we have
Yes,
we have a
totally.
more aging population in the United States. So
Yeah.
I think
Maybe
that
that will help when
yeah,
people like you writing about it, talking about it, sharing it on LinkedIn. We're going to put your blog connection in there for everybody and the guide in there. but maybe it's just more about standing up and, speaking about it. And how can people, does somebody have to be in Virginia to work with you, or is this just you sharing your knowledge with everybody who wants it?
No, so what I do is I provide general information and knowledge. I'm not telling people what to do, and I'm not acting
Yeah.
as their physician. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, people all over the country, and maybe in some parts of the world even can learn from what I write.
You also
The
have a newsletter, right? People could subscribe
Yeah,
to your newsletter.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I have an email newsletter that I put out, and I was blogging a lot more. I think I wrote like 20 something articles in 2022, and
Holy moly.
I'm actually I've answered a lot of the big topics that I wanted to cover, and so now I'm kind of switching towards giving my email newsletter more video content.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that you have good videos. I think you should. I'm telling you what to do. Yes. I love your content, and it has really, it's warm, it's direct, it makes sense, it's logical, it's easy to understand. And I think, yeah, I just want everybody, it doesn't even matter if you're like 27 or 28, you still have a parent, you still have people in your life. Like, we don't need to wait till we're in our 50s to think about this. I think
yeah.
like knowledge is power for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you saying that because, like, I really have a secondary intention with doing this work, and so,
Tell
the
us, what is it?
the primary intention is to help the dementia family members, the people of those who are living with dementia, making the medical decisions, really feel better and have a plan and as to how they're going to move forward. But when they go through this process that I've laid out for them, it also helps them plan for their own lives, and if they're having to advocate for someone else. So there's, kind of multiple layers behind it, but,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah.
think that's great because it is, I mean, we're not, it's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there may be a caregiver for dementia for a family member or a professional, but they still have a family. Like, we're all not raised by wolves, right? So there is a connection between every single thing. And I think so many people spread out all over the world maybe aren't around families, or they're making new families made of, people around them, and, aging people all over the place, right? And
Yeah.
to have the knowledge and to have the access, to not also feel intimidated. I think, one of the things that you do is create this in a very open, positive way to people. And I think if you read anything from a healthcare provider, it can be very untrustworthy, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But it doesn't feel like it's done without an ulterior motive, because they're tied to a healthcare system. But someone that sort of found their way in either out of anger and frustration in a job to create a whole entire network for people is pretty phenomenal. Tell me, if you want to share, what's been the feedback from people? Have you had any like things that have just
Oh
really
gosh.
touched you from people that have really just
Yeah.
moved you to tears, maybe? I don't
Well,
know.
I mean,
Or laughter?
it's amazing the power of like online connection through the internet. Because
Yeah.
I have a couple clients. One I actually did do a phone consultation with recently, so I actually got to speak with her over the phone. But
I love that.
we've been interacting with each other for a year online.
Whoa. Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's crazy.
And then, to hear all the action steps that she took because of just what I wrote,
Wow.
it's just, it's truly inspiring to me. Like, and it, I said I was angry and I was very burnt out in the ER.
Yeah.
I was not in a good place. In 2021, in the summer of 2021,
Oh God.
I was not in a good place.
Wow.
And,
I mean, the work though that you guys did for people was phenomenal. So, I mean,
yeah, I
nobody would
mean,
expect you to be in a good place.
yeah, COVID was rough, but,
Yeah.
but it wasn't just that. It really wasn't, But for me, I was not in a great place. But doing this work really has helped me tremendously in the emergency
See?
department. I'm much happier at work, honestly, and I'm able to again find the reason why I love my job. Most days, I'd say, I don't know, 70% of the
Yeah,
time.
that's good. I think that's a high number.
Yeah, is just that ability. I try to connect with every person I see. It is not easy, but I
No,
try
I can
to have
imagine.
some sort of genuine kind of moment with them because it makes me feel like I'm actually there for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, I think
So
I want to go to your Virginia. I want to go to your ER in Virginia. I think you bring up such a beautiful point about just being human. I mean, you have enough in you to fight your way out of fear and anger, right? To still love your job and then create something that helps so many people, but then bring that back into you personally, which probably changes and makes you a different kind of ER room doctor in a way that connects to how you want to give care.
yeah, yeah. It's been very beneficial for me to do this
I
work.
love
And
that.
I'm now working two full-time jobs essentially,
I can't.
but
Why don't we do this as women? We could just like take on everything. So, what? This is a tiny question before we go, and then I have one more question. But why ER room? How did you choose? Did
hmm.
you choose to be an ER room doctor? You were just like, yeah, I want that. I want six
Yes.
night shifts.
So, it's interesting. It's tough. When I was in medical school, when I started my third year of medical school, that's when you start doing your clinical rotations and you go through all the different subspecialties of
Okay.
medicine, the main specialties. And so you're introduced to them all and you kind of start figuring out what you want to do. And I liked bits and pieces of them all, but I wasn't like in love with any of them. And I was actually kind of concerned because I said to myself, I don't want to
Oh
do any of
no.
this. I don't want to be a surgeon. I don't want to be an
Oh my god.
OBGYN. I only like to see sick kids. I don't want to see well kids.
Wow.
I just want emotionally attached to people. So I just
Mm.
felt if I was a primary care doctor that I would never go on vacation and would self-sacrifice. And anyway,
Yeah, yeah. No, I love this. So basically, you found your way due to these rotations to the practice that suits you.
yeah, it was a process of elimination basically. So,
Oh well, I mean, I think that's great.
yeah, so I do the ER has been great. It is, and when you're talking about healthcare and having an ulterior motive, I
Yeah,
mean, I I am running a business doing this work, like
yeah,
I sell a course. I built a course for
yeah,
caregivers. And
yeah. And
and
that's
so
under your Dr. Brittany Lamb on your network, which we'll put into the notes as well, so people can
yeah.
see the business. And you've been doing that for over a year now, I think,
Yeah, I've
almost
been
two
working
years. Yeah. Uh oh.
it, want to take ownership of my abilities to help people, and eventually I'll transition out of the emergency department because I don't want
Yeah.
to work there until I'm in my 60s.
No, I don't think, and I don't think anybody wants you to work there till you're in your 60s. I mean, I think that makes sense to be able to transition into something where you're going to help just as many people, but in a whole different way. I have a
Yeah.
really wonderful orthopedic knee surgeon, and he's close to my age, and he's absolutely fantastic. And his main medical assistant, who is absolutely fantastic, said, he's only going to be practicing for a couple more years. I'm like, well, he's really young. He goes, you can't do that forever, right? You can't stay in someone's knee or hip forever. Like you
Yeah.
just your hands, your eyes, your fatigue it will just like bring you down. And he does a lot of patient advocacy for you know around joints and things. So,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, so I need to get in here quickly, get the second knee done then before he retires. She's basically so. I think you can't. It's a very fast paced world that very few of us will ever understand.
Hmm.
And so I think I really admire what you're doing, and I absolutely love the fact that you're creating something bigger, longer term to connect so many people and help them make good medical decisions. So, oh, wait, I think I actually have some sound. Yeah, we do. We have a little sound. Okay.
Thank you. That's
You're
very
welcome. Take a
sweet.
bow. Take a bow. Take a bow. Yeah. So I'm gonna just for everybody. I'm gonna put. She's got to go do a night shift right now. So we're gonna let Dr. Lamb go, and I'm gonna put her newsletter, her company that you can reach out to her on, and including some of her videos and the free audio guide for dementia caregivers into the notes. And honestly, thank you so much. It's been you are actually the penultimate episode for season 2 for Tiny Little Victories. So
Aw,
I'm so grateful for your time before you dash off and save people's lives in the emergency room.
we will do our best. Thank you so much for
Okay.
having me,
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Thank you so much. Hey, friends. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Dr. Brittany Lamb. I am so inspired by the things that she shared with us and how she's viewed her own life and her own path to be able to create a new path to help hundreds and thousands of people. So I'm going to put in the notes where you can go get her free audio guide for family caregivers, dementia family caregivers. It's www.blambmd, that's BLAMBMD.com /5-step audio training. I will put it in the notes so you'll be able to see it. I will connect you to her where you can contact her for any advice or any medical decision plans. She will be able to point you in a new direction, or maybe you can work with her. And yeah, so please go check that out in the notes. And before we close out this episode, I would like to say that next Wednesday, is the last episode for season 2. I don't have hand clapping, but I'm clapping, manually clapping to say I'm super. The reason why I'm so excited about that is that it's been such a success, and that's thanks to you guys and thanks to your listening and sharing. And so I'm really thankful for all of you who have shared this, who have come to be on the show, every single guest. And as you know, we're going to do a best of season 2 starting on July 12th with all of the guests from the top 10 episodes. That's going to be a lot of fun. They are not going to know what the questions are. So Andy Trammell and I, who is one of my frequent co-hosts, she and I have put our heads together and come up with all sorts of questions taken from current affairs, taken from trivia, and we're going to be bringing those back to these guests. And Andy is one of those guests because her episode was in the top 10, and just having a little bit of fun with people. And I want to thank them all for agreeing to come and do it because I know they're all very, very busy. The last episode of season 2 is with Carl Forkel. He is a German gene designer who now lives in Dallas, Texas. And we're going to talk about his journey from Dresden, Germany to Dallas, Texas. There's a lot of D's in there, but it's a really fun podcast. And I hope you tune in next Wednesday for the last episode of season 2 of Tiny Little Victories.